The views and opinions of this broadcast do not reflect the views and opinions of Armed Media, New Productions and its affiliates. Enjoy the show. Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of Talk Time with Val. I'm your hostess with the mostest, Valenissima, and I have a very special guest with me tonight, and of course his lackeys are joining us too. So we have Jeff Haney and his entourage. Angela, Wes, say hello.
Hi.
Hello.
And of course the man himself, the man of the hour, Jeff Haney, say hello.
Hello.
Did I say just hello? Like, not even a... like...
How's it going? How is everyone?
All right, so we are going to talk a little bit about Jeff. He has not given me a bio, so let me tell you what I know about him. Jeff is an intrepid soul who has seen a lot of life. He has, well, you know that old cliche, the school of hard knocks? I think that he's been through that, but he's come out a better person for it. From what I've seen, from my interaction with him, I've seen someone with wisdom, with spontaneity, with humor, and just a zest for life that can only come from, I think, coming really close to losing it. Appreciation. So let's talk to Jeff and get his story instead of my view of who he is. So Jeff, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I don't know. A little bit about me. I'm a person who's in long-term recovery, and what that means to me is that I haven't drank or drugged since August 3rd, 2013. So I'm a little bit over 4 years sober. From my experience of drinking and drugging, it caused a lot of heartache and suffering in my life. And from that, I try to pull out a lot of experience and strength out of that to live life now.
When you say heartache and suffering, can you give me a little overview? Like, I mean, you say the words heartache and suffering, but my listeners will want to know. Some of them will be able to identify with you, but then there are others who live in the bubble I live in, with no real view outside of what you see in television or read in books. Can you give me a realistic viewpoint of what it's like?
So, yeah, I mean, we definitely can. Like, growing up, I always felt different. I always felt like I was an alien put on this earth, and, like, it was a bad joke, and one day my mother and father alien were going to come pick me up and take me away. I always felt different than our fellow man. Different than my perception of what people around me were. And from that, I always felt like I was a loner or different, or I can't get along with this group of people or that group of people. And that was one of my major issues that led me to drinking and drugging.
What do you think made you feel like that? Was it disassociative, or was it, I mean, there must be...
It's 100%, in my opinion, this is my personal opinion, a soul sickness. I didn't believe that there was any God of any kind. I'm not a religious person at all. But I didn't believe that there was any synergy between fellow man or anything like that. And as I'm in recovery now, what I have learned is that I've definitely learned that, as you just said, identify with your listeners. I was able to identify with some people that were in a class of alcoholics and drug addicts that spoke my language and felt the same way I did. And it made me put my guards down so I can finally be honest with myself, my own soul, to say, these people feel like this and they don't feel like that anymore, and how did you stop doing it?
I have a question. I'm sorry to cut you off, but what I'm asking is not just how you felt while you were using drugs and using alcohol or, anything else to get you through the day because you felt disassociated. I'm asking what caused you, or have you looked into what caused you to feel disassociated in the first place? Was it something, can we say it's environment or experiences, or is it honestly something that it could happen to anybody in the world no matter what?
Right. No, and I understand what your question is because a lot of times with drug addiction and alcoholism, they may have abusive parents, they may have abuse of this or that. Environmental, I have an older brother who is a very upstanding member of society, went to a private school, has got a college degree. I grew up in the same household he did, with the same parents, and I came out completely different. And that's why I say...
How much older?
He's 7 years older than me.
And he was achieving by the time you were old enough to understand. He was already achieving?
Yeah. And
Did that make you feel like possibly you couldn't live up to it?
So to go back a little bit, there was a little bit of issues, right? I have a learning disability. I see out of my eyes separately, right? And so I see two images of everything in life.
You mean like an astigmatism?
Not so much astigmatism. I physically see like a chameleon, right? So growing up and going to school while I'm learning, I'm seeing two lines of everything in a book, so it take me twice as long to get through a book and take everyone else. And so the teachers would say I'm dumb and I'm stupid, and they sent me to special school district. That would probably be the only thing that was almost traumatizing to me in my growing up years, was I had to go to a different school, or I had to do this or do that. And it still causes me pain today, because it makes me feel like, those old ways of when I was a kid growing up and forming my brain. I was really, I get low self-esteem when it comes to that stuff, so I'll put myself down.
Can I input? There's an opinion and a cliche, I think, that can apply here. You ever heard that if you tell a fish to fly, it thinks it's a complete idiot? You ask a fish to swim and it's a superhero? You're a fish. Everybody's a fish. Here's what it is. Your eyesight, while you're looking at books, right? You're looking at words. You're thinking, it's taking me twice as long to read this, but actually, in your brain, it's mapping. I might have to read it 3 times to understand it. You have to read it 1.5.
Right, but back when I was...
No, I'm saying because you said that you still feel like that sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
You got to rewire the thinking, because you're superhuman, man. I mean, seriously, there's a show on TV that goes through these people who have gifts, and you can look at a gift as being a downfall because it's not part of the societal norm, or you can look at yourself as being super because you are. You're separate from the norm.
And I've worked through a lot of those issues being sober, but it still haunts me to this day, in the sense of I will get some feelings of not good enough, or I'm not going to succeed, or I'm not even going to try because can I cuss?
Yeah.
I fucking failed. I fucking failed at life, or I failed at this. Like, I've never stepped foot into college. I have a good career. I do well for myself. But if I went to college, I could be so much further in life. But I never stepped foot in fucking college because I graduated high school with a 1.4 from special school district. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so at the end of the day, like, I definitely have some of those feelings of inadequacy, and the weird thing about it, growing up, I was a self-centered, selfish fucking prick, and that's just the way it was,
And that's changed how? No, I'm kidding.
but I definitely, no, it's as we laugh, that's something I've had to work severely on. I didn't realize how selfish and self-centered I was until I got clean.
Here's the thing, again, another cliche. You don't know the good until you've experienced the bad. You don't know the highs until you've experienced the lows, right?
Right.
The fact is, you're one of the most compassionate people I know, and you hide it with humor and self-deprecating humor, or you twist it like you have this knack for finding that one focal point, that one word in a conversation, and changing the entire direction of the conversation by using that one word. And it's always, sometimes you kind of, you stoke the fires a little bit, but for the most part, it's always a in good nature, in good fun, to bring more levity and camaraderie to a situation by bringing people together with laughter. Yeah. And you do that. So to say that you were that, well,
you got to understand who I was before.
But that's what I'm saying. That's why you're like this now.
Right.
Because you understood the depths of depravity of being completely selfish, self-involved. To do that, to be as compassionate as you are now. One, it's a great goal. It's a really, honestly, like, impressive achievement.
Well, it's a lot of work, right? And so we can't. So since this is being recorded, I have to be honest with you guys. We can't say the name of any 12-step program because I'm using my full name. Okay, so I have to be conscious of the traditions of the 12-step community. So going back to when I was a kid, I felt fucked up.
Hey, we can edit your full name from the beginning here.
I would think it'd be more important just to not say any 12-step fellowship's name.
Yeah.
Any of the A's, right?
That's fine.
If it's AA, CA, HA, NA, I can't say any of them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think me being anonymous is not helpful to anyone.
Right.
If someone needs help, they're going to find me by my name, Jeff Haney, on Facebook, right? They're going to find me by that. They're not going to find me by Jeff H.
Or you can go to Armed Radio Global. You can go on our network, or you can link up to Val News to More Armed Radio or Talk Time with Val, and I'll hook you up with Jeff.
And we also, and we can get into it more, but I do work at an outreach center in South City, St. Louis. You can find us on Facebook. We also have a website. It's Missouri Network for Opiate Reform and Recovery. I think
What's the name on Facebook that we're searching?
It's just Missouri Network.
Okay.
Opiate Reform. I can get it while we're sitting here if you'd like.
But the actual URL will be.
I don't think that's it anymore.
It's not it anymore? Okay.
But ultimately, like, I don't.
Link us up. We'll put links up on Armed Radio Global. We'll put links up on our Facebook pages and our Twitter accounts. You can find it through there.
And what I was trying to say is I don't think at the end of the day, like, I don't think me being anonymous is going to help anyone. I think the 12-step community is way too anonymous, and they're way too not vocal enough about recovery. When I got sober, I was 33 years old. I was fucking completely devastated. Life was horrible, and I didn't know there was help out there, and that's why I don't mind using my full name. But to go back from when I was...
What do you mean you didn't know there was help out there?
I didn't know that people lived sober lives. I didn't know people had clean lives. I didn't know that there was anyone in the community that would help me in my issues.
See, now, and this is from an outsider's point of view. Like, I see it on TV all the time. I see it on movies. I see it in books. I see it in magazine articles, newspapers, like on the news.
Yeah, sitting in someone's basement of a house, drinking and doing drugs where there's no
real
TV.
interaction. That group. Okay.
And so, to go back when I was a kid, and I felt this like separate, different, and alone so much that I did. When I drank and drugged, it completed me. It had me at hello. It was like it made my soul no longer ache. I felt like I could go talk to that girl. I felt like I could go fight that guy. I felt complete. It really seriously fixed me inside.
It made you feel whole.
Most definitely. I think that's why they call it spirits, because it gave me a spirit. And it gave me a spirit of, you can't fuck with me. And at the end of the day, like... And at the end of the day, like, what ends up happening so many times for true alcoholics and drug addicts is that it stops working at one time. And that's exactly what happened with me.
So would you say, Wes's comment, spirits or demons? Now, there are spirits, and you've seen me drink. Jimmy, you've seen me. Listeners, on some of the live shows, you've seen me. And I'm telling you, I have one drink, and I'm like, woohoo, where's the table?
Right. But there's something very different between...
Yeah, but I'm saying there's a spirit, and then what Wes said, there's a demon. So when you become addicted...
No. And what ends up happening is this. You have a drink, and your brain goes, I've had too much.
That's it, I'm done.
I've had a drink, and I crave more drinks, more drinks on top of more drinks.
Okay.
And it just compiles into a whole clusterfuck of, I need more, no matter what it is, if it's a drink or a drug.
So it's like a bottomless hole, even though you're feeling like it's filling you and it's completing you. It never actually completely completes you. You want more and more and more to feel better and better and better.
Most definitely.
Okay.
It's not just a completing, it's a craving for more. A lot of people think craving happens at the time you're not ingesting something. In my opinion, the craving happens after I ingest the first drink. My brain doesn't go to, you've had too many. My brain goes to, you need more, you need more, you need more. There's so many times when I've gone out and I just want one drink. I'm just going to go out and have a couple beers with the boys, right? That's on a Friday night. Monday morning when I'm dragging my ass inside after being arrested, it's like, what the fuck happened?
See, that was my theory. I've always said that you can't say, well, to me, alcoholism is a disease. Drug addiction is a disease.
That's classified by the AMA as a disease.
Right, and it's something, well, you can have addictive personality, whatever. What I'm saying is, to me, it's you can go 5 years without having a drink. It doesn't mean you're not an alcoholic. The minute you have one, when you can't stop, when you can't censor yourself, that's how you know you're an alcoholic. Is that correct or no?
So yeah, and I can tell you a little bit more of my story, right?
Yeah.
Growing up, I would go out and I would say when I was 19 years old, I went out for a night. We were just going to go out and have some beers. I ended up going out having a lot more than beers. It went over to the next morning, to the next day, that Saturday night. I ended up in a car with someone I shouldn't have been. I ended up arrested, a bunch of charges from the police. And when I'm in jail, getting ready to get released, to my mom, the only one who'd come get me, ultimately what happened was my brain's telling me, like, the drinking's not the problem. The drugs isn't the problem. What the problem is those people. So if I switch my people, I'll be okay, right?
So you're rationalizing.
If I move from away, right? If I move from St. Louis to St. Charles, if I move from St. Louis to, Tulsa, Oklahoma, I'm going to be okay because it's always their fault. It's always everyone else's fault. I can never sit down and go, the drugs and alcohol is the problem, right? And I could rationalize that, right? As long as I'm playing victim with it, right? Everyone else did me, and that's why I say self-centeredness.
So you couldn't see that with the drugs and alcohol in your system, you didn't have much of a choice or the clear head to make better choices. You ended up just blaming the other people around you for making those choices. I
blamed everyone and everything for my problems from the second I was 2 years old until I got sober at 33. Mm-hmm. I could never honestly, objectively look at myself and say, I own this. This is my fault. This is what I have to do, right? Mm-hmm. I always blamed everyone else, and I felt as if and again, the drugs and alcohol worked for a period of time. I could tell you when they stopped is when my dad died. I made a decision when my dad died. I'm going to drink and drug the way I want to drink and drug. No one's going to tell me any fucking different, right?
Right.
And I went extra hard after he died, and ultimately what happened was it stopped working. It stopped completing me as a human. Mm-hmm. The inside of me just stopped. It just stopped working one day, and I was left with an addiction to drugs and alcohol, and no solution to my life problems.
So let me ask you something now. Have you substituted the addiction? Because a lot of studies out there show that addictive personalities can substitute negative or destructive addictions for positive addictions, but it's impossible or improbable that the average person will be able to stop being an addictive personality.
Right. I don't feel as if I did. I have people in my life who help regulate what I'm doing on a daily basis.
So you wouldn't say you're addicted to life? Or addicted to helping? Or addicted to sharing your story?
I was just going to say that. I'm definitely, there might iniquity, right? I don't know how to say
Equanimity?
that word. Yeah, whatever the word is. There might be some balance issues in my life, right? There might be some balance issues with I'm doing too much to help people over looking at my family, right? Mm-hmm. I might neglect my family to help people, but then I might neglect helping people with my family, right?
So you get really focused on what you're doing at that time.
And one thing that lacks in my life, because of what I do in the community, because of my work and recovery, is sleep.
I've seen you.
I work a full-time job. I work 10, 11, 14 hours in a day, and then I'll go out and work in the community for an hour or two, and then I get home and I got to deal with life, and then next thing I know, it's 1 a.m. and I go to bed and I wake up at 4:45. I'm a huge advocate for.
Why are you waking up at 4:45?
Because I pray and meditate for an hour before I get out, before I take a shower, before I do anything. What's your morning routine? Give me a rundown. So typically I wake up in the morning, like I said, wake up 4:45, between 4:45 and 5:30 or so. I pray and meditate. Prayer's usually about 2 to 5 minutes. It's usually a good 30 to 45 minutes of meditation.
What is your meditation? What is your format?
So I don't do guided meditation at this point in my life. I'm comfortable with silent meditation.
Is it mind journeying, like just letting your mind wander?
Like Low John, like breathing in the sorrow of the world and exhaling nothing but compassion.
Okay.
I'm in a kind of a...
Janice.
Well, no, I'm more in a sticky situation in life right now where I feel as if I'm going through some pain. And so since I'm going through that, all I can think about is punching people in their jaw. And so I have to be mindful of compassion in the world because I can become, because of my alcoholism, drug addiction, and what I've been through in life, I can become very aggressive. And it's even worse when it's my loved ones. I can become a fucking prick at times. And I know that, and I know I've been a prick to you, I've been a prick to Angela. Like it happens, right? I don't mean to be that way, but the good thing about recovery now is I can objectively look at myself at night and go, "That wasn't acceptable. I need to go back tomorrow and either apologize or make up for those actions." You know, in my opinion, life's all about what actions you're taking and what your shoes are doing, not what your mouth's doing. I'm all about integrity right now, so there's a lot of meditation on integrity. And am I one thought, you know, am I truly doing what my mouth says it's doing? Or am I just song and dance? And so, you know, meditation for me is super personal at times. It's super, it's, in my opinion, you have this God voice inside you, no matter what you want to call it. Your soul, spirit of the universe, higher power, whatever you want to call it, right? But you have this voice deep down inside you. You know what the right thing is to do and what you need to do in your life.
Conscience?
You're deep down, you're conscious. You're conscious, right? Your soul knows what it needs to do and how to do it. You're just fearful of doing it.
In Hinduism, we call it the Atma, which basically is the soul. But God, we call the Paramatma, our ultimate soul. And we believe that everything, every atom, every molecule, whether it's living or dead, inanimate or animate, has Atma, energy, soul.
Right.
Atma basically means energy.
Yeah.
So everything has energy, whether it's matter or not.
Right.
And what we describe it as, I mean, this is how I'm relating to what you're saying. What we describe it as is that the journey of self is connecting with not just conscious beings or conscious energies, but
here's one thing. One thing, it's not that I don't know much about Hinduism. It's not that I don't know much about Catholicism or Christianity, right? And so I'm not willing to talk about
religion.
Okay. No. I want to talk about religion. Okay. Yeah, but what I'm going to say is this: I don't know much about it to comfortably sit here and say this is my experience because I've never been into a.
I'm trying to relate to what you're telling me, so I'm trying to put it into words that, because I've discussed this with my listeners before. Right. I'm trying to put it into words where my listeners have, from previous shows, they can relate to what you're saying. No. That's all.
But what I want to say is this: as you talk about other objects in the world, right? You talk about crystals, right? You talk about rocks, and there's a lot of people out there who, like chakras and all this, right? In my opinion, those things don't have one thing that we have, and that's a fucking ego.
Consciousness.
And my ego will compile on top of that God voice inside me with calamity and pomp, and you gotta have this, and you gotta have a nice car, and you gotta wear nice clothes, and you gotta have the
my top.
Yeah, you gotta. That's a nice top. You gotta have the girl and the white picket fence and this and that. When at the end of the day,
or the guy, we're not judging.
So at the end of the day, do I need that? And I'll pray and meditate on is this situation right for me, right? And do I need a new car? And pray and meditate on it, right? Go get you make good money, go get an expensive car. Well, that's not a waste of time. Yeah, it's all I'm gonna have is 2 weeks later, it's the wrong fucking color in the car payment. You know what I'm saying? And I'm pissed off at myself for having a $400 car payment when I had a perfectly good free car that I'm driving around.
And here's the other thing. People never lease. I will always preach this. You buy a $25,000 car, let's say it's a Honda. In 9 years, or in 2 or 3 years, it's depreciated. You can sell it for $9,000 cheaper, but you've paid $14,000 your lease. Don't be stupid. Do the math.
All right, sorry. So that's a little bit too much work, right? but at the end of the day, I have to sift through all of that in my meditation to think, is this Jeff's will, or is this my internal God, and my God inside me's will? And I have to decide.
But is Jeff's will, or is Jeff's will what society creates?
And that's what I have to get through in meditation. Okay. I don't know. The only thing I could tell you what a God inside of me is love and compassion.
Right.
So I have to look at it and go,
I like that.
Am I treating Angela with love and compassion at the end of the day?
You better, I'll cut you.
And so, am I treating Amrita with, Valerie?
You're fine.
Whatever your name is. with love.
Valerie. Valenissima, keeper of divine knowledge, that is I.
That sexy voice again.
No, that was supposed to be my all-knowing, all-seeing voice.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, am I okay with, treating people with love and compassion? And sometimes love and compassion is, I said it outside of these two earlier, fuck you. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to deal with your shit, right? You want to act the way you want to act, right? If Angela wants to do something that hurts my feelings, right? That's cool. That's up to her. I'm not here to impede on her spiritual growth, right? So I can't sit here and say, what you need to do is this, and you don't do this again, you don't do that again.
That's right. That's my job.
So I can't reasonably say that to humans. So
right.
At night, when I look and I lay my head on my pillow, I have to think about my day. And because of my alcoholism and drug addiction, did I treat everyone with what I feel is love and compassion?
Let me ask you something. Where does love and compassion go, in your opinion? The ideology of turning the other cheek.
Yes.
How far, how many times do you turn the other cheek? And how do you deal with the confrontational aspect of saying, all right, at this point, I am becoming negative. I'm doing harm to myself by turning the other cheek.
Right.
I need to stick up for myself, but I still need to not put out the negative energy to tear this person down. I just need to disassociate myself. How do you do this? How do you find that balance?
It's easy for me to sit here and say, anyone in my life who's causing me suffering, I'm going to walk away from. Until the point it becomes a loved one, right? And usually that deals with sex, right? And money, right? So when someone's fucking...
Well, I mean, if sex and money is what matters to you, but I mean, if you go through our Tantra shows, you'll realize that sex is what you make it, baby. Anyway, but what I'm talking about is, yeah, it's not just sex and money. It's, all right.
No, I would combat that a little
so?
bit. I would think 80-90% of the world suffering is from sex and money,
okay,
right?
You're talking about the majority aspect.
But when it comes to my loved ones, that's a slippery slope. You know what I mean? How long... My son's 17 years old. I will allow him to upset my spiritual life a lot longer than I'd let a friend upset my spiritual life. I will let a friend upset my spiritual life and what's going on, what's inside me.
Let's say it's your mama. Your mama's been there for you through everything. You said she's the only person who would come get you. She has been there for you. She loves you. She gives you compassion, a kick in the ass when you need it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I
so
would
let's
have
say
to,
it's your mama.
I would believe if my mom did something to upset me in my spiritual life, I would allow her a very long rope before I burn that bridge, right?
But no, and here's the question. Do you burn the bridge? Do you completely burn the bridge? Or how do you go about it? Because we had a bunch of emails coming in, and my take on this, and you have a lot more life experience than I do. So I was talking to them from a therapist aspect. You're talking from I've lived this aspect.
Right.
And it's very different. From a therapist aspect, I said, you can't let other people in your life destroy your own zen, your own feelings of balance and goodness and calm and peace. You need to speak up. You need to say, I understand your point of view. I get that you don't like this about me. You don't like the guy I'm dating, or you don't like what I'm doing. But I'm an adult and I get to do this. Now, I get that where you're coming from is a place of love, or maybe you're just selfish. I don't know. But when it comes down to it, for us to have a relationship, you need to not comment on or try to change this about me, or you're going to destroy the relationship. But then I started thinking about it, and I realized that it's more of I've done that and it's worked for me because I've been given a blessing, the power of the voice. I speak something, people tend to listen. I don't know why. That's just something that but doesn't work for everybody.
Right, and I would think...
What do you do?
So this is going to sound mean, but I would think that's, first off, effective communication, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've done this, it's affected me, now I'm going to speak my truth to you, and my truth being, what you did is not acceptable in my life, either change it or don't, right? And I wouldn't even come at it, I'm sorry, I don't mean to say it like that. I wouldn't come at it with that aspect. I would just say that this affected my life, and I don't like the feelings that you're giving me, right?
But eventually you came right there because you said, change it or don't. Because the thing is, that passion, that feeling, is what we can speak academically and try to be calm and compassionate. But when it comes down to it, as human beings, it does affect us deeply. And we do get to that point where it's like either change it, and we get tones, we get,
right.
No,
like, and that's what I was just going to say is, at the end of the day, like, it all depends on who the person is in my life.
Okay.
At work, it's easy for me to say, you need to change your behavior.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a manager, so that's what I tell people to do. I tell people how to act, right? Mm-hmm. When it comes to facts at work, right? Mm-hmm. Other aspect of what you're talking about is it fact or is it feeling, right?
But here's where you and I disagree a little bit. There are dynamic facts. They're changing because perception changes the fact on how your view of something, your fact, is different from my fact. Because of my life experiences, I see something. We're looking at the same words. I see Missouri Network for Opiate Reform and Recovery. I see that. I don't actually know what it is. I'm thinking, okay, this is a network, a bunch of people who are going to try to help people recover from drugs and reform their lives, find better jobs, find better ways of handling things, and recover and actually become a functioning member of society that they themselves can be proud of. Not that anybody else can be proud of, but that who they can live with. They can live with themselves, right? That's what I see.
Right.
Somebody else looks at it and says, all right, it's a group of people who's helping a bunch of drug addicts try to find a better life so they don't have to feel bad about themselves for being drug addicts.
and that's all truth, though.
That's what I'm saying. So my facts will be different from your facts, from somebody else's facts. So how do you ideally separate emotion from fact when emotion is fact? Because fact is emotion. Because
I have to be okay with the facts that are in my life. I don't have to be okay with what's going on in your liwith I don't have to be okay with what's going on in Wes or Angela's life. What their feelings and their emotions and what's going on with them, right, is within them, right? I believe at the end of the day, like spiritual suffering or any type of suffering that's going on with the person is typically going to be some type of pain, right? And a learning experience.
Pain is growth.
You're right. So I could easily sit here and go, oh, you're going through drug addiction? Well, guess what? You're going to come out a better person. But that's not truth in that person's life, right?
No, it's not.
So I got to be conscious of how I'm speaking my truth to other people.
Right.
Right? I can't. The way I approach you is different than the way I'm going to approach him.
Yeah, you're a little bit blunt with me, dude.
I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's...
Tone it back a little bit. I got feelings, too. Come on.
That's how you listen.
No, I listen.
Yeah. So, but sometimes in life, like, I have to be conscious of how I'm approaching people in aspects of that. And getting sober, I wasn't able to speak truth at all through my first year of recovery. I couldn't do anything like that. I couldn't tell people my wants and needs because I didn't know what my wants and needs were. I just didn't want to fucking drink and drug anymore. Okay. And so as I'm going through the process of recovery, I'm going through a process of speaking my truth to people around me and being okay with saying, as I said earlier, I'm tired. I need sleep, right? I need help, right? I'm a egomaniac with an inferiority complex, right? Mm-hmm. I either think I'm way too fucking big for the room or way too small for it, right? And when I say that, like...
So you're a chihuahua?
one time, I could not ask for help. I couldn't say, I need help with this, right? But going through the recovery process, I learned that it's okay to ask for help and it's okay to tell people my wants and needs. And so if I'm going through suffering and I need to tell someone the truth, I speak the truth and let them handle it. And however they handle it, they handle it. Mm-hmm. I don't have to affect myself with it. And
you don't need to start thinking about how it's impacting them and trying to second guess yourself before you say something. You just speak what you know to be the truth.
Right. My perception of the truth at that time, right? Mm-hmm. And the reason why I can do it with confidence and I can do it with vigor and I can do it with this is from prayer and meditation, right? Mm-hmm. Speaking to other people, other alcoholics and drug addicts, right? But more importantly is at the end of the day that I know at this point in my life there's something that's taking care of me, that's a higher power somewhere, and it's got my back. And it's saying you can speak your truth, and if you upset them and they walk away and they don't come back in your life, who cares, right? you upset them and they come back and say, hey, Jeff, let's talk about this. Let's do it, right?
Or they just turn the other cheek and say, all right, I know he meant this from a good place. Even though it hurt my feelings, I'm going to say, I know he meant this from a good place, so I'm going to take it from a good place. And that's a lesson in life, people. A lot of people generally, we as people, we tend to look at something somebody is saying to us and think the worst possible situation, scenario, whatever. And honestly, if it's a person you trust, if somebody you call a friend or someone you love or you think loves you, then it's more than likely they're coming at you from a place of positivity, from love. So instead of looking for the negatives, try looking for the positives.
Yeah, and that's a lot easier said than done, right? It just matters how much fear you're in and who you're dealing with at the end of the day. Like if I'm dealing with, as you said, my mother, you know, my fear can go through the roof. What if she does this? What if she does that? What if she does this?
What if she doesn't love me anymore?
Right. Most definitely, man. And so, over a coworker, but I can't.
Because, I mean, essentially, if it's your boss, okay, you fire me, I'll get a different job.
Right.
If it's your mom, you don't love me anymore, then I must be one hell of a fuck up.
Well, and that's where like we were talking about it outside. That's where a lot of like projecting and or I like to talk about like the voices in my head, right? Like so I have all these things that are going in my head, and I was talking to these two outside.
Do they sing to you?
Sometimes.
Woo!
Only in your voice. So like I'm talking to these two, and I was talking to them today, and I was like, well, driving out here, my radio stopped working, so I had 30-45 minutes of driving here, and when I'm driving here, I have all these conversations going on in my head, and I'm like, well, when I see this bitch, I'm going to say this, and she's going to say that, and I'm going to hit her with this. When I see, you know, my boss at work, I'm going to give him a piece of my mind. This is what I'm going to say to him. He's going to listen to me, and I'm going to get a raise and walk out the winner, you know.
So you were all puffed up and cocksure.
Yeah, and so somewhat of speaking my truth, I have to be very conscious of that I'm not doing that. And it could be a lot easier said than done when it comes to.
But here's the thing. That is actually quite healthy. It's a visualization technique. You let yourself be that person in your head. You build your own confidence. And eventually, even though you're not going to come at them with that attitude, you're more able to, because you visualize saying things, you're more able to temper that and speak your truth. You have less fear. You're able to speak more truth.
And at the end of the day, like, and we could, I could turn off the air real quick.
Hey, Jimmy, are you picking up the air? Is it coming through very loudly?
It's okay.
So at the end of the day, that might be truth in your life, but me as a drug addict and alcoholic, I can't allow myself to get into that because I do something very beautifully. I play victim, and I'll play a martyr, and I think that's a part of drug addiction, alcoholism, is that I will, and I like to say, speak victimese, right? So I will say it and have those conversations in my head, and I'll turn them into. We were talking about outside. I'll turn this into a file against somebody, and I won't allow them the opportunity to speak their truth because I fucking just walk in and slam them with everything I have against them. Yeah, and so it's not. It's in my opinion, it's not healthy for drug addicts and alcoholics to have that dialogue going on in their head because it does nothing but drive them fucking insane.
Okay, because it's like an self-eating snake.
Yeah.
It can never let go of itself because it's too scared, but if it doesn't let go, it continuously eats itself and it dies.
Well, I think of the old cartoons when I fucking throw a baseball and it fucking travels, you know, and it travels around the world, hits the person in the back of the head.
Yeah.
Like, that's...
Same thing.
You know...
They stole that from Greek mythology, man.
There's a line in a recovery book that says, we step on the toes of our fellows and they retaliate seemingly without provocation. And to me, that's been truth in my life. Like, I will do something...
Actually, that's too deep for you to have just brushed over it so quickly. Say it again and say it slowly.
I step on the toes of my fellows, seemingly without provocation, and they retaliate. So, like, I will come up and I will...
Seemingly without provocation.
So I will walk up to Angela and I will say, Angela, not good morning, how are you? Angela, do this, do that, do that, do this. I'll talk to you later. Bye. And I'll be rude as shit, and I won't be mindful of what's going on in her life, and I'll walk away, right? Later on in the afternoon, she'll walk over and, you know, here's what you wanted me to do, and then walk away. And I'm sitting there going, well, what the fuck's her problem? Like, what's going on? Like, why all of a sudden are you...
Well, because you were a narcissistic douchebag this morning. Yes. That's why.
And that's a mild form of what happens in my life. But I will take that and go, look, she's so mean to me. I can't believe it. You know what I mean?
I didn't do anything. It was without provocation, and then she retaliated and hurt my feelings.
Yeah, and that's where I have to be for the ones that I'm comfortable with, the ones that are around me, and the ones that I.
Why would you do that, Angela? Without provocation.
But at the end of the day, like the ones that my loved ones, or the ones that I'm friends with, the ones that are close to me, like I have to be transparent in my life and say, yeah, she might have called me a motherfucker, but I forgot to tell you that.
Look that way. Just look that way. You can keep talking. I just want to adjust my bra. Look that way.
So at the end of the day, like.
Yes, listeners, the boobies were popping out again. I had to fix them. Sorry, go on.
So
we're good.
At the end of the day, like I had to sit down and be honest when I say this person's not treating me right. Because I would play victim with it, and I would say, and I'd only tell you half the truth or half the facts of the situation. I wouldn't tell you that I was mean to that person earlier, or 2 years ago I stole their money. Or
why'd you steal their puppy, Jeff?
Yeah, exactly.
Why'd you steal their puppy? And now that the puppy's big and you don't want it anymore, you're just gonna dump it off on their doorstep? What the hell?
Right. No, and that's where I had to be very conscious of my life and be honest with people around me to say, here's the full story. What do I do from here?
Here's the thing. You can give the full story, right? Like, oh, I had a fight with so-and-so. This is what happened. But I think it's the delivery of the story, and as well as your own perception. Where you actually... And here's the... I have been a victim in my life. I refuse to be a victim. But I also have this whole thing about I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. I want to make everybody around me happy. I want them to be in the best frame of mind. I don't know what's going on in their life, so I don't want to be the one to snap or tell them something wrong.
Why would you care if someone's happy?
That's the thing. That's my whole thing. It's because growing up, that's what I was introduced to. You be kind, you be courteous, you be compassionate, you be aware of your situation, your surroundings, and people around you.
Let me get into your ass now.
Yeah.
What makes someone happy?
But that's the thing. That's where I was going with it. So I have this whole thing where it's like I don't want to be a victim, but at the same time I want to make other people happy. And at that point, I stop making myself happy because I end up being the one who suffers for things. Nobody is victimizing me. I'm doing it to myself.
But why would...
You get what I mean? Like, though, it's like, it's a really simplistic thing, but it's like, okay, I want a cup of coffee, right? I want a cup of coffee. I have $1.50. How much does a cup of coffee cost? I have no idea. $1.50?
Like $9 is $10.
Okay, $9. No, we don't want crap coffee. We want good coffee. Arabica beans. Come on. None of that Starbucks. What is it? What is it called, Jimmy? What do you say? Horse piss? Right? That's what you call it? Anyway, none of that stuff. I want a cup of coffee, but I have $1.50 and somebody else needs a sandwich. I want something, they need something. I've worked for my money, but I would rather give them that than have it myself. So then I give it to them, and instead of them buying a sandwich, they buy a, what is it called, a ding-dong? One of those little stupid... And then I'm like, I'm ticked, but at the same time I'm thinking, you know what, no, I gave it to them because they were hungry, they're eating something. It might not be what I want them to eat, but they're eating it. Okay, I have no right to be upset, and yet I didn't get my coffee, so I'm not fully functioning, so I didn't make my goal, so I don't get my bonus, so I'm blah, 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 and it all stems from the fact that because I was trying to make somebody else happy, I made myself unhappy. And there comes a point in time when you need to stop doing that.
But no, where does that even stem from? Why would you... What makes someone happy? You didn't ever answer the question.
No, and that's what I was saying. My perception of what would make them happy, in that in this moment they look hungry, they want something to eat, I want a cup of coffee. Well, even though I really, really want it, I don't actually need it. Maybe they need, and this is the thing in my head, maybe they need it, so they should have it.
What makes you happy?
What makes me happy, honestly?
Mm-hmm.
Life. Like watching puppies in the park, throwing the 2 loaves of French bread to the ducks today, and climbing the I freaking climbed a rock wall. You know, like just living, laughing, talking, looking at architecture and discussing the history behind it, who lived here, what the meaning.
So
life, people.
And so the reason
not even people. I don't like people. What do I say people for? Animals make me happy.
And so and the reason why I say that is.
Are you an animal, Jack? Are you an animal, Jack?
I'm a fucking honey badger.
There you go.
So at the end of the day, like that's something that's bothered me in living a sober life is I would try to go out and make everyone's life better. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna make sure I do all the dishes, and I'm gonna make sure I have food on the table, and I'm gonna make sure this.
That doesn't make me happy anymore. I used to be me. That doesn't make me happy anymore.
Well, exactly. And my perception was like, I'm gonna do all this stuff, and it's gonna make her happy, and it's done nothing.
No, but here's the thing. It used to make me happy when it was appreciated. Well, when it stopped being appreciated, I stopped being happy.
Well, I'm a firm believer in first humans appreciate it, then they expect it, then they demand it.
Can you go talk to John?
We can.
I mean, like, yeah, go do it.
Because when you get to that expecting and demand stages, that's when resentments happen. That's when all this other shit in life happens.
That's when I come in looking like a zombie to work because you know what? I make dinner from the night before and lunch, and he decides at 11:30 when he's going to bed that he wants something else for lunch. So I have to go in the kitchen and cook something that's going to take an hour and a half to cook.
You don't have to do any of that. It's called turning the other cheek.
No, but that's the thing. That's the thing. Doing and then waiting until 3 a.m. when it cools down enough to put it in the fridge so he has lunch the next day.
You don't have to do any of that.
But I thought I did.
But you don't.
I don't do it anymore.
Right.
And it causes friction, but I don't do it as much.
That's not your friction. Because whatever's going on with him is going on within him. Right. He needs to figure that out. You can't do it. You can't make him happy.
Hells yeah.
You can't not only make him happy, you can't make him angry. You can't make him upset. You can't take the good or the bad.
Right.
You know, he's his own soul.
Exactly. I have the ability to impact the situations around him.
Right.
But I don't have the ability to impact how he deals with it or his reactions to it.
So let's go back to something.
And nobody has that impact on me. That's right.
Can I go back to something maybe personal in my
life?
Okay.
Not letting them control you anymore.
It's what?
Not letting them control you anymore.
That's so much easier said than done.
But is it letting them control you, or are you actually? No, because nobody can control you. You choose to react like that.
But if you choose to allow them to do it, then at that point,
you're choosing to allow your emotional response to how they behave control you. They are not controlling you.
No,
they're manipulating a situation to make you have an emotional response, so you react a certain way.
So what sense when you break it down?
You're allowing someone's actions to control your feelings.
Your feelings, yes, they control your feelings, but not your actions. I'm a firm believer in if you don't take responsibility for your own actions, man, if you want to step in shit, I can't stop you. But don't expect me to clean your shoe.
Don't expect.
Yeah.
But the people pleaser in you will clean the shoe.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's why I said it's a lot easier said than done. We can sit here and wish to be all these things and wish to be, say we want to be. But,
Angela, excuse me, sorry. Remind me to send Jimmy some star anise. Go on.
But at the end of the day, like, until your actions start meeting your words. The pods.
The star anise pods that I grew for tea at the office.
High on pods again?
Yeah. Dude, oh my god. It's the only reason I wasn't congested during
we can 12-step you on some pods.
No, I love my pods. They wouldn't take my pods away from me. Chinese star anise, yeah. Love it.
Yeah.
What? Oh god, I saw that. That is so stupid. Oh my god.
That's awesome. I used to fucking get high off air conditioners. I mean.
You were saying let's talk about something personal in your life, and I want to get back to that, but here's the thing. I saw a video on YouTube, Angela just brought up kids are eating Tide Pods thing.
I heard it.
I saw the guy puts it in, and then he chases it down with liquid Tide. He's like, yeah, I'll get that. And I was just like...
So the sick part of me wants to know, was the high good? And the second part of me wants to know, does his fart still smell? Just a fucking thought. You know, are you like shitting... Are you like shitting out like fucking like... shit, like, got the liquid shits and you're shitting out like that foamy, like... It's a foam party in my fucking toilet? Like, And that's just what goes through my head, right, on a daily basis when I hear stuff like that.
Oh, okay, so that goes through your head. You know what goes through my head?
What?
They are stripping the lining of the esophageal way. They are killing the probiotics in their stomach. They're alkalizating the acidity levels that they need. They're affecting their colon. They're affecting their liver. They're pushing their kidneys. The bolus cannot possibly process that type of... And that's what's going through my... No, seriously, I'm sitting there and I'm telling John this. Do you know what they're doing to themselves? This is what they... And I'm going through it, and he's looking at me like, okay, all right. I'm like, if that was our child, he's like, okay, yeah, all right.
So when I got sober, again, I was 33 years old, right? I was drinking... On the weekends, I could drink 8 or 9 fists of vodka a night.
What is a fifth?
A fifth?
It's like 750 milliliters?
Yes.
Okay.
So I could drink that throughout the entire day. I could drink around 8 or 9 fists. And during the week, I would put down 2 or 3. And during the week, I could put down 2 or 3 just to keep my... So you start shaking when you start withdrawing from alcohol. It's called the delirium tremens. Within the recovery community, we call it the DTs. When you start experiencing DTs, you're in a very, very dangerous spot because your body's physically shutting down, right? And so... I started experiencing...
you can die from withdrawal.
Yeah, only from alcohol and benzos. Xanax or Clozapines.
I thought opiates as well.
No, not from opiates.
You can't die from like heroin withdrawal?
Very
Then why is methadone such a prominent treatment?
Because methadone's a son of a bitch. To put it this way, opiates, methadone, all that stuff will make you feel like you're going to die. Alcohol and benzos will fucking kill you. If you had enough. So when I got clean and when I got sober, what ultimately happened with me was I was like a cool green color, like greenish grayish color. I was probably 40 pounds lighter than I am now. My liver was sticking out of my belly. My doctor was talking to me about going to start looking for a new liver because I was about to drink through my liver. I had a lot of medical issues going on, right? And it was tough. So as I say that, as of today, you're talking about drinking whatever detergent,
Tide Pod,
right?
Drinking Tide detergent,
and my brain still goes back to, is the high good? I don't think about me being green or what it does to my body or my esophagus.
Right.
I don't give a shit about that.
Well, it's a conditioned response from many, many years. It's like when you think of Stockholm syndrome, it's not just a syndrome that can happen between person to person. It's a hostage response situation that can happen with addictions as well.
Yeah, I can see that.
That's exactly what you're going back to that for. It's because you've been conditioned and trained. You've trained your mind to,
So, and the reason why a minute ago I said, can we switch it up a little bit? So the reason why I said something about, at the end of the day, why I said something about, like, when I got sober, I was in quite a bit of trouble with the state. So to go back a little bit, I was in a severe car accident in 2011. I was in a severe car accident in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that where I had issues with, or I had here, you need my. So one thing I had like issues with or problems with was at the end, I got in a lot of trouble for the car accident. I broke my neck. I had got staph in my blood. I was severely sick. While I was going through the issues with the state, right, and while I was going through all these things in my life, it was impossible for me to see what the judge's actions are.
What do you mean?
How much time I'm going to spend in prison,
right?
Or what's going on with it. It was completely out of my hands. I had no control over what they're controlling my life. Right? So as we talk about like people's and feelings and emotions and people's actions affecting your emotions, I had nothing but emotions on my end. Anger, frustration. Am I going to prison? Am I not going to prison?
Fair.
I was looking at 14 years in prison. So like, it wasn't just like I'm going to go away for a weekend, right? I had some serious charges from the state. And so, I wanted to project and I wanted to put Jeff's will in there, right? For the first 2 years of my trial, while I was on trial, I drank and drugged. And I let what their actions are, drive me literally insane, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where I get sober, and I almost forgot that I was even in trouble at times, and that I was on trial for stuff. So I ended up, everything ended up working out in life, and I ended up, the judge showed me a lot of leniency and mercy. But it was just difficult time in my life to say, what's going on with them, or what are they doing, and they're not going to tell me, and I'm not going to tell them, and it was just, I was thinking about that as we were talking about, like, people's emotions and feelings and all that. I don't know.
No, yeah, because you're going back, it is relevant, because you're going back to, you're speaking of how people react and interact, how feelings affect fact, and you're pulling it back to the fact that when you were at this point in your life, when you made a dramatic change, something happened, and then there's an authority figure in your life who now has control over your life, and you've been fighting all these years, drug addiction, alcohol addiction, it was to fight for some sense of control so that you felt like you belonged. It was control. And now here it is, the control is being wrested completely away from you, and somebody else gets to decide your life. You have fear, you have anxiety, you have anger, and the very thing that you started down this path for is taken away from you. And so it's totally relevant. In fact, it's more than relevant. It's actually something that I think a lot of our listeners can actually relate to.
Oh no, and it was a very fearful time in my life, and for me to get clean and sober at the time that I did, and to sit back and go, okay, at the end of the day, okay, here's what's going on in my life, and some people to go, we've been through this, and we're going to walk with you while you're going through it. It relinquished the control from the judge or myself to, I'm going to walk the walk and talk the talk and see what happens. And again, ultimately, the judge showed me a lot of leniency, a lot of mercy, and obviously I'm not sitting in prison right now.
So here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that you have a network. You have a network of people. You're very active in that network. You help people. And I think that I have a vast array of listeners around the world who, when you think about it, addiction is not something that is, contained to one area, right?
No.
So let's do this. Let's have a series. Yeah. Let's set this up where you're a regular, and let's do as many parts as we want to, a series on not just addiction and reform, but on actual hope. What is there to hope for?
Yeah, because where
is it going to?
We're talking about a lot of bad stuff. Like, we didn't talk about, like, the surrender process and all that.
Well, then that's a bunch of stuff that we can deal with. We're going to deal with these. You're going to throw me tag phrases and lines that I'll have to do research on. But, yeah, I want to set up a series on that. And listeners, if you want to hear that series, you have to keep tuning in to Armed Radio Global and Talk Time with Val. Now, we're going to set this up with Jeff Haney, and we're going to actually see if we can get some funding. So if you want to donate to the Missouri Network for Opiate Reform and Recovery, contact us on Armed Radio Global. If you want to help Jeff with his good works, and we're going to outline a few of those, projects, we will do so on next week's episode of Talk Time with Val. So tune back in and help us out. Help us help you. And that's all the time we have tonight for this week's episode of Talk Time with Val. As usual, be safe, be well, and blessed be.